cannot believe I'm getting paid to do this thing that I would still do for free and started out doing. You know, I don't know that I've really done much in the Halo world. I'd probably like to be a part of something like that. Or do it again. Don't suck this time, you know. Oh, that's right. Okay, so and this one, so not
I'm Naomi, and this is Game Rant's Character Select, the show where I sit down with the most talented voices in gaming. Today I'm joined by the legendary voice actor Roger Craig Smith. You may recognize him as the voice of Ezio from Assassin's Creed, Batman from the Arkham games, or the iconic Sonic the Hedgehog. He shares about his roots in stand-up comedy, some of his favorite laugh-out-loud moments working behind the scenes, plus what games he'd love to work on next. Hi, Roger. So good to have you on Character Select. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Naomi. It's so good to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to be chatting again. We've had a couple times now where we've met up and chatted about all the things that you do, and now we're about to dive deeper into it.
Oh, boy.
And I guess I want to start from the beginning. Like, take us back to where everything started for you.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny because I've answered this question a number of times in life, and I always just kind of go, if I was to really say where I think it all began, not that anything about where I'm at and what has become of my life was ever part of a plan. I probably said this on your last show. I have as of late been joking with my friends going, man, look at us. Look at where we are in life and all these things that have happened. And then I chuck on, I go, exactly as we planned. Am I right? You know, because nobody I know is like, oh yeah, this was all where I was headed.
Right.
So if I was to think about, I think about this quite often. Fortunately, I was exposed to certain movies and things like that. A lot of musicals when I was a kid, which was really kind of cool. A lot of incredible comedic performances, things like that. But Charlotte's Web was a stage production that they were doing at my preschool. And I want to say it was Grand Avenue. It was something like Grand Avenue Elementary down in Orange County, California. And there was one speaking line that they were going to give to somebody in the class. And they were going to hand the microphone to a child who was just going to say, I think it was Mr. Zucker or Mr. Zuckerman. I can't remember. You're going to the fair. And it was about, you know, this prized pig that this farmer had. And of course, you know, and it was one line and they gave me the microphone and I probably yelled it into the mic, you know, unnecessary, you know, a horrible mic technique, you know, for a professional voice actor. But I remember doing that and getting laughs. And I can still now at this age remember what felt like to kind of get a rise out of people or suddenly as a little kid, you're making a room full of adults and other kids kind of laugh. And so I really think if we were to go, you know, on the literal sense, it probably began there that I enjoyed the idea of moving people and making people laugh. From there, in elementary school, I would do stage plays and things like that. I would enjoy being a part of that. Middle school, we did Snoopy or, you know, Charlie Brown, like all that kind of stuff. We did like, you know, Christmas reviews, things like that. I was class clown in 8th grade. I was freshman class president in high school.
Wow.
I was involved in theater arts in both junior high and high school. I started doing work outside of school in a musical youth artist repertory theater. It was called My Art down in Orange County.
Okay.
And they would do Lil Abner, Sound of Music, Grease, you know, all the old ubiquitous, you know, oh gosh, what's the Somewhere Over the Rainbow. What am I thinking? Blah. Wizard of Oz. Yeah,
Wizard
gee,
of Oz.
yeah. Gee, has there been anything in recent pop culture that was a reference to that? Maybe how wicked of me not to think of that. Yeah, so it would do stuff like that. And I enjoyed like discovering what was my sort of strength, which was back then being comedic. And it was also just what I loved. Mm-hmm. Dancing was not my strength. It was not my forte. And thankfully with My Art, even though there were a lot of dance numbers, I was so bad at it. I was just I really struggled with it that I would work with Dana Hanstein, our director, and say, could you just let me, like, I feel like my character would just sort of leave the stage at this moment. What do you think? You know? Yeah, let's let Pappy Oakham leave the stage. And so I wouldn't have to be a part of too many dance numbers and that kind of thing. But singing, comedy, acting, it was like I was just learning back then got out of high school. I felt, you know, I had a lot of people that were like, oh, you're going to be like a Robin Williams. You're going to go out and do stand-up and all this stuff. And I was like, what am I going to talk about on a stand-up stage? But eventually out of high school, got a little bit older, was playing drums and doing music in different bands and things like that. Just kind of very directionless. Knew I didn't want to take a job. like a normal job. I didn't
Nine to
take the
five.
SATs. Yeah, didn't take the SATs, so I wasn't going to go to a 4-year university right out of high school. So I started kind of bumming around junior college for a little while. I was a barista, delivered pizzas, played in bands, did stuff like that. And just was kind of flopping around, just going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I started kind of going, oh, now I'm old enough. Went and watched an open mic, watched a couple comics, do some stuff. And I thought, I can do that. I'll put together something. Got into some open mics, started doing stand-up, did that for about 5 years. In between all that, I went back to college, finished, got my degree in screenwriting at Chapman University. 2003 graduated. I don't think I got my diploma until 2004 because of a PE credit that I had to make up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then, but then in the meantime, like while doing stand up a lot, I kept getting people, because you would MC and do corporate gigs and things like that. You have people that go, oh, you have a radio voice. Are you a DJ or something? And I was like, no, this is me, and I would do characters and voices in my act based upon the advice of my old high school theater arts instructor, who was nice enough. Years after high school, I called her up because we were still close. I said, Jan, I'm thinking about doing this thing, stand up, and I want to get your opinion. And so I stopped by the little theater at our old high school, and she was still teaching there. The kids were all gone, and I did a private stand-up show for her.
Wow.
We got done, and she was like, you want me to be nice or be honest? And I go, I'm here for the honesty, not for being nice. She goes, where are your voices and characters? Like, you're just doing stuff that anybody else could do, and you can conjure up character. You were always my little Robin Williams. Why don't you go do that? And I was like, okay. So she's like, yeah, become the character you're making fun of, and then we can laugh at you, with you, instead of you just doing standard observational comedy. Started incorporating voices and characters in my act. That's what I started to kind of be known for. That's what people were commenting on. And I kept hearing that throughout my stand-up years. And I was finding very quickly that stand-up was not going to be something that I thought I wanted to do forever. I didn't want it to be my living, but I got my degree in screenwriting. I thought, hey, stand-up would be a great way to kind of cut my teeth, make sure I'm still kind of staying fresh as to what's funny out there. And it'll help me being a writer for a writer's room for TV or something like that. And then eventually I just kept hearing more and more and more about this voiceover thing. And we were, there was a group of us at the Improv in Irvine that were selected to perform as a showcase for the Aspen Comedy Festival. And the woman that was there to evaluate us attended the show. The show ends, we get back on stage, and she critiques us in front of our fellow actors, or fellow stand-ups, I should say. And she goes down the line and tells everybody what she liked or disliked, or tells them, hey, don't do this, don't do that, or hey, you should think about this, or I really like that. She gets to me and just goes, hey, who represents you for voiceover? And I was like,
Yeah.
Nobody. She goes, yeah, you do so many characters in comic and voices in your act. I thought you were a cartoon guy. I was like, no. And she goes, no. And she's looking at that and just moves on. Said nothing about the comedy or anything. I was like, all right, finally, here's an industry professional. And literally the next day I was like, all right, I'm going to Google this. I called some agencies. How does this work? What do you guys look for? I didn't want to bug you, take you too much of your time. They go, take a class. Here's Kalmanson and Kalmanson, go take a class. I took intro to voice acting for voice actors or whatever, level 1 kind of a thing, and got a little bit under my belt, went back to my old film school, paid a guy that was an audio guru to record me reading magazine ads out loud. I knew enough about editing because I attended film school to edit together my own voiceover demo. A couple weeks later, I printed some demos and then stomped the ground around Orange County, California, and just dropped off demos in a suit, trying to be different. And out of 11 places that I found that were based down there, about 3 ended up calling me. I started working for them, took a class that one of them offered, started booking work. And I just basically started like entrepreneurially, like building my own little voiceover, business down in Orange County, learning, making mistakes, doing all that before taking Bob Bergen's animation class up in LA. There was a woman that was there to audit the class that actually was a booth director at Abrams Artist Agency back then. And she liked me and another woman that was in the class. We were thankfully established enough that we had demos ready to go.
Yeah.
Gave our demos to the agents. A couple weeks later, they called us up and said, we're going to represent you. And I went, cool. And the rest is history. Yeah, that's 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago.
Oh my gosh. You did do a lot of different things, it seems like, before even getting into it. Like you did a lot of different jobs. You said barista and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Were you just always kind of a worker person, like somebody who had that mentality, like I'm always just going to be doing stuff, I can't just be sitting at home doing nothing? Like,
yeah, I think so. I think there's a little bit of like a double-edged sword to like growing up in an area like Orange County, where you are exposed to so many different sort of classes, if you will. Like you've got like doctors and attorneys, and you've got friends that are that come from families that are extremely hardworking, wealthy. You've got just such a great mix from what I was exposed to at an early age. But the one thing that was sort of ubiquitous throughout was just work and a work ethic. And I think,
Yeah.
at 14, I was riding my bike because, my parents were like, yeah, go get a job. At 14, I was riding my bike down to Walker's Market to work in the deli. And, before that, like, we had avocado trees. The
Oh, nice.
neighborhood that I grew up in used to be an old avocado grove. So all the homes had avocado trees in their yards. And so we had these avocados, and we'd have hundreds of avocados every season. And my dad was like, if you want, we'll throw them in the back of the old little Corolla station wagon, and I'll go park it down on the street, and you can sell avocados, and it was like,
Wow.
yeah, it was stuff like that. And I came from like, family friends that had a produce business. And so summers would be like, we're packing, fruit crates together. It was just like, yeah, work is like how you earned some money so you could go spend it on something if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was definitely, the work ethic was there. I didn't have parents that sat around and just kind of let stuff happen. They were very ambitious. To this day, my mother is still at this age my bookkeeper, and is
Oh,
as
wow.
sharp as a tack, and will forget more about accounting than most people will ever learn in their lives. And it's like, yeah, my dad was running businesses. It was like, it was all part of what I think I was exposed to as yeah, you go,
Hmm.
you grind, and yet maybe that's not the best way. It's not,
Yeah.
it's a way, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way. But I am grateful that I grew up in a region where I was exposed to people that were like, hey, I mean, even when I was in high school, and and again, just kind of bumming around, I would detail cars over the summers and things like that. So I got into that to kind of run my own little auto detailing business. And I had a family friend. The father owned a business, and
Hmm.
he would be the first to pull me aside and say, hey, you're undercutting, not undercutting, you're underselling what you're providing, and you need to know your worth. And he was like, always know your worth, and things like that, where you just, these little bugs, they get planted, and you kind of go,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, no, I think it was just sort of what we grew up around. It was like, you stay active. My friends and I, it was, as much as I loved playing video games and that kind of thing, we would sit around and play some video games. But then it's like, let's go play football. Let's go. It's like, let's go throw things at each other. Let's go like ride our bikes everywhere. It was like, it was out and about. It wasn't lounging around, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that that also played into how you got your comedy chops, or your just your personality, like somebody who loves to do voices, somebody who loves to, meet people and network? And would you say that that's something that also like was ingrained in you, or was it just like a natural instinct that you had the whole
Maybe
time?
it's nature nurture and a combination of the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think some of it. It's funny. My friends and I, to this day, I'm very close with a solid group of my high school friends. And we just recently got together in San Francisco, and we're celebrating a friend's birthday. And it was just funny because our joy is just sitting around and busting each other's chops, but not in a mean-spirited way. It's always like, we're very interested in one another's sort of success in life. And I don't mean just financially. I mean just success in life. Are you happy? Are you pursuing things that matter to you? Do you feel like you're doing something meaningful? And then, how are your kids? How are your spouses? How is everything? How is
Yeah.
work? And yet it's always with an edge of, we're trying to crack each other up. and
Right.
and not everybody went into entertainment. There's only two of us out of that group that really found ourselves solid in entertainment. A dear friend of mine, Josh, is a very successful producer, and it's like, we sort of chuckle, kind of going, man, we were the odd man out in this group, because the rest of them are all turning into like attorneys and doctors and things like that, business owners and all this, the consultants and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, no, I think I think it was honed as a, let's have fun, like, let's have a good time and entertain one another. So I think a lot of that came from that. But I mean, there was still a little boy that grabbed a microphone on a preschool stage
Yeah.
and, and realized, ooh, this is kind of cool. And I and
Mhm.
I think about, like, I had this inherent desire, like, I can remember if my friends, if I was running around someplace and a friend fell and they skinned their knee and they started to cry, both selfishly on knowing that, well, if the mom or dad comes, that means playtime's over because somebody fell down and got hurt,
Yeah.
and I don't want playtime to end, and also I don't like seeing my friend in distress. So I would literally just start, making fart sounds or doing something silly and funny, and it was like, and just trying to, like, get the person to stop crying and laugh, maybe, and not be sad. And I think that wasn't something that was taught to me. I think that was just sort of, maybe that was something that I felt like, oh, this is important. I don't know that I've
Mhm.
retained that desire so much later in life.
Right.
More times I'd be like, that guy's in trouble. We should just leave him alone.
Right.
Like, no, I'm going to go make that guy feel better. I don't have
Right.
so much of that as much anymore, but no, I think it's a nature nurture thing. Yeah. And I think thankfully, like I said, I had family that was open to, like, exposing me to, to musicals and comedy and things like that. So it was a combination of those two, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How much of the comedy, stand-up comedy side of your work goes into the voice acting that you do?
So much, and that's kind of a neat thing. I think of Jan Laurie, who was my high school theater arts instructor, and she always used to say, look, the path is never linear. She started out as a passionate dancer, and then found herself, like, loving the idea of teaching kids theater, and
Yeah.
because it involved so many things that mattered to her. So she's like, look, I wasn't setting out to wind up where I wound up, but I did, and here I am. And so I chuckle because it all sort of started to align. I was very directionless. I on my 30th birthday, I woke up and was kind of like, oh man, I got to get this going. I got to figure this out. I'm entrepreneurial, but I'm not really established in anything right now. And that was when things really started to kind of kick into gear. The year of my 30th birthday, with, like, getting representation and all that kind of stuff. It was, yeah, I think comedy honed an element of, you can't just sit back and assume that the choice you're making right now is going to work 100% of the time. That's so much of the craft of stand up, was like, ooh, okay, I get back, I always looked at it like football in a certain way, like, not that I played, but it was like, or at least, organized football I did not participate in. um you huddle up, you think, okay, this is what I hope to go do. You hike the ball. A lot of
Yeah.
madness, happens in the next, like, 30 seconds of your life, or if it's in stand up, it's 7 minutes to 45 minutes. This whole thing happens, and then you get done with it, and you kind of go, okay, what just went wrong? What
Right.
worked? And how do we approach the next one? And I think so much of stand up is that it's like, okay, where am I? What's the city? What's the tone? What's the energy of the crowd? And you're modifying things sometimes just backstage before going on, kind of going, oh man, the guy before me just went up and did a bit on something similar to mine. I got to scratch that real quick, modify this, So thinking on your feet, always trying to come up with something new. I utilize that in voiceover all the time. It's just
Mhm.
constantly, they want to know, what else you got? Try another thing. Let's do it this way.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way. And then screenwriting, understanding character development, story arc, character arc, callbacks, plants, payoffs, all these things. And then musical theater, and then drumming, and just a work ethic, like, show
Yeah.
up, be 20 minutes early, be ready to go, be prepared. Don't bring your crap into the room.
Yeah.
So what that you're having a bad day? They don't need to know that, and they don't care. They want to get it, all those things just kind of, all of a sudden, it aligned, and I would find myself sitting in a voiceover booth going, I cannot believe I'm getting paid to do
Yeah.
this thing that I would still do for free, and started out doing for
Mhm.
free, to get people to, take a listen. Here I am, as content as can be, and I feel like I'm good at this. I feel like I'm right where I should be. And it's to this day, it's still like, there's been moments where I kind of go, that's screenwriting coming back in. That's an education in that. That's doing the hours and the reps, and just kind of grinding away in a brutal world of stand-up comedy. Like, that's just kind of, and shedding your own ego,
Oh
like
yeah.
stand up will humble you so quickly, because there's nothing worse than when it doesn't go well. There's nothing better than when it does. But when it
Right.
doesn't and it's just work, you're kind of like, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah.
I got 20 more minutes to do, that kind of thing. It's
Yep.
like, I got to do what I can because I'm being paid to do this. And the crowd is just, for whatever reason, I can't win them over, or it's just a bad vibe, or, so many things that are out of your control, bad sound systems, bad lighting, bad
Mm-hmm.
audience configuration, all these things. And yet you got to show up and work. It's like all that stuff just kind of coalesced into this thing that all of a sudden I found myself, I had a screenplay in development out of college. I
Oh,
did well
wow.
in a nickel fellowships in screenwriting competition and made it to the semifinals. And that got me a literary agent, and we got a
Amazing.
screenplay in development. It was nuts, right? Had about 5 rewrites. And then pretty soon we were just like, it's not feeling right anymore. Like, I don't think this is the company we should be working with. And he said, we can always just say no. And we'll just say, thank you for
Yeah.
everything. We'll walk away. We did. And by the time that happened, my voiceover career was really starting to kind of kick into gear. And I said, I think I need to set my sights here.
Business
And
decision time.
it was one of those things
Yeah.
where thankfully I was like, yeah, I just look at it like going, the hope of selling a screenplay and maybe making a 6-figure
Yeah.
income off of that once. And
Right.
then what you got after that, and grinding that away again for another 3 years to hope that you might
Mm-hmm.
sell another one, as opposed to, I'm getting paid over here and I'm getting work and people are
Value.
interested in,
You're being
yeah.
valued. Yeah.
And I was like, and it just, yeah, all of it. So screenwriting, comedy, everything all the time plays into decisions that I make behind a VO mic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so much goes into it.
It
But
does,
yeah,
yeah.
people don't think of it in that way sometimes. They're just like, he's just talented. But like, so much of the thought process and like the preparedness
Yeah.
comes from like your experience and knowing the ins and outs of like how this stuff comes together, really, like
Yeah.
how it gets made. Um, Speaking of being in the booth and appreciating that and having such like a love and a passion for it, do you have any like maybe one go-to story of when you got a director's note that was really funny, or maybe a really funny moment that like you were dying of laughter or anything like that?
Oh gosh, there's too many. Some are like highly inappropriate. So there's
They always
that.
are the best
Yes,
ones.
and those will just live right in here, and they'll
Right.
be safe in there. I don't know. There's something really funny. Like it is inherently sort of it's an odd thing to do this at times, because anybody who works in production, especially for video games, understands the
Uh-huh.
functional element of what we're doing. That's where the skill and the training of properly trained and skillful voice actors comes into play, because much like a camera and knowing, an actor knowing their eye line and whether or not they want to cheat it to this side or that side, or where's my light? I need to land my line on this because that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
the dramatic moment. And the cinematographer and I and the director, we've all figured this out. There's a lot you can do with a microphone, and there's a lot of things that are very functional and that are intentional for the end result. But in the process of making the thing, it feels utterly silly. I mean, grunts and effort sounds and things like
Right.
that we know. Look, it's gonna, once it's animated, it's gonna make perfectly good sense. But when you're sitting next to somebody and they're a grown human being and they're going, it's like it just stuff like that. So there's always the human element of like, oh, you think you're some big, powerful superhero or some badass military guy or whatever it might be. I always just love that. Like, so if all of a sudden you and we're having this nice conversation and it's going like this for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, voiceover session, then at the end of a typical voiceover session, when you are starting out, you're doing a lot of grunt work, per se, you're cutting your teeth doing all the militia man, biker bar, like fight
Right.
stuff. You're screaming and yelling and doing all that kind of stuff. NPC work, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Inherently, you're gonna have to cover like your fight sounds or your battle
Mm-hmm.
chatter or your onomatopoeia, all that kind of stuff, right? And my diaphragm, which has been in a relaxed state doing dialogue for the last 3 hours, is not quite ready for the sort of gut punch of punching sounds, screams, efforts, like all this stuff. And I will very often get the hiccups, especially if you ask me to fake cough. Fake coughing always gives me the hiccups, and I've learned I can get rid of them within 30 seconds to a minute. It's an old technique kind of a thing. It works really well for me, but there's always that moment. And I think back to working on Metal Gear, on an early Metal Gear game, and Chris Salter, my director, who I adore and would give me such great direction of like, or do it again. Don't suck this time, stuff like that. Like one of my favorite human beings. she was just like, okay, like on this one, you gotta kick in the door, and it's like you're this badass warrior guy who's gonna come in. You got your gun pointed at the player or whatever, and it's like you kick in the door and you yell, everybody get on the ground or something like that. I'm like, okay, cool. So here come the beeps, and all of a sudden I go to kick, and it's like you've already committed, and it's all going to happen so fast. But the body was like, nope, we're just going to do what we're going to do. And so I do this huge kick sound, and then I had the most high-pitched squeal hiccup I could never replace or recreate it in my life. But I still was halfway through the committal of it, and so it was like, boom, get on the ground, and just she's dying laughing. I start cracking up because it was so involuntary, and I had nothing to do with it, and it was just somewhere out there on a digital hard drive lives this this sound that I made that probably dogs were barking. But yeah, that stuff like that. It's like when all of a sudden the human element to what you're doing kind of comes into play, and you go, oh, that's right, this is acting. I am pretend. I am not really this thing. Like getting lightheaded when you're trying to do running sounds or running efforts and almost passing out because you've been standing in a booth for the last 3 hours, and then all of a sudden going you're acting, but you're hyperventilating.
Yeah, your body's like, what's happening?
Yes. So there's little things like that. I mean,
and
there's all sorts of bodily function sounds and belches and farts and things that happen that just remind you that you're a human being and this is pretend.
Right.
But no, there's a lot of other more horrible stories, but that like I said,
those are great. That was funny. Also, it just makes me think that a lot of actors, part of the skill of being a good actor is just being comfortable with being embarrassed and
I mean, seriously,
not being perfect.
Stand-up comedy right there again. I mean, it's like one of those things where you go, that didn't work well, but you got to keep going. You just keep moving on, and eventually you just kind of go, it doesn't really matter. And like, and everything about getting on a stage or just not even getting on a stage, just doing something. It doesn't even have to be artistic. It can still be at your work. If your work is not inherently creative, I think we as human beings want to do good stuff, and we want to have somebody go, I like what you did. You did a good job. It's always nice to get that reward, but it can be dangerous, and it can be, oh gosh, what was the movie where J.K. Simmons? J.K. Simmons, right? Yeah, I was like, TK? No, J.K. Simmons. Plays the professor, the music professor, who's, always doing this. And the two most dangerous words in the English language, like when combined, are good job. It's like,
right.
And it's like, on one level, I get it. He wants to seek perfection that's never obtained in music or jazz or that kind of thing. And so there's this weird, element of like, we want to get that good job. We want to get that feedback, but also you gotta kind of grind it out, and you kind of got to put your ego aside and kind of go, hey, that didn't work. So what else
Sometimes
you got?
You'll get the no, or you'll get the, it could have
rejection.
Been better.
Well,
rejection.
So much of what we do is just, I have people go like, you're still auditioning? And I go, every day. I try to, I feel terrible when I've missed auditions because it's like I'm out traveling or working or this kind of thing.
It's part of the job.
It's like the job is to audition. You are only as good as your last audition. It just does not work that way. And I think some people are like shocked to hear that it's like, but you've been Batman or Ezio or Sonic, and you're like,
right.
Yeah, that's been done. That's done.
Yeah.
Look, what else you got? And you got to try to find a way to, keep scraping and scratching and outworking people or being available. I always laugh and go, it's great to be good. It's better to be available because you never know if you're the third person that they've attempted to hire. You know, if the first two folks were booked, so it's never about like, I'm good job. Like, I'm so great. It's like, no, it's work. You gotta grind it out. So I don't know. I've already rambled. I forgot what the question was, but
Well, it actually leads me perfectly into my next question, what you were talking about, because you have played a lot of iconic characters that you're known for, and you've had to play those characters again, like sometimes 10 years later. I guess it's a question that I don't know how I would really put it. Maybe like what are some of the challenges that you run into when you're having to bring back a character that you haven't done for so long? Is there anything that you like when it comes to Ezio or when it comes to Kyle Crane, anything like that you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to like refit back into this shoe?
I guess it's interesting to revisit anything because, like, for one, you always wonder, like, ooh, I wonder if like the years of abuse to the vocal cords has
Yeah.
shifted my
Changed
ability
you.
to kind of and
Yeah.
capture that same obviously youthfulness and things like that. You start kind of going, ooh, I hope that I've still got that. But the other thing is just trying not to violate. It's such a weird balance. It's like we have so many fandoms that are so passionate. And, I've been voicing Sonic for over 15 years now, and there are still people that want to gripe about the voice change that happened 15 years ago with a change in actors. And you kind of go, really? You've got to be close to my age if you're still,
Right.
worried about that sort of thing. Like, this is really what. And so there's this weird balance between trying to pay homage to something that you've done, but bring it
Mm-hmm.
along to something that would be more contemporary, because you also want to
Mm-hmm.
be a steward of your own sort of like
Yeah. Make it your own.
franchise. Yeah, and you want to make sure that people are like, okay, this is why this is still around, this is why it was good back then, and this is what we're going to hopefully introduce to this newer audience now, but
Yeah.
not violate what people have in their minds as to what it should be for those that have been here long.
Batman's
um
probably a perfect example of that.
yeah, and it's like, and these characters live in, I always say they live in boxes and things like that. And then you've got the challenge of like what other actors have already established, which makes good sense, that you want to make sure that you're playing in the right sandbox, that you're not stepping too far outside those boundaries so that it
Mm-hmm.
violates what would be everybody's kind of collective understanding of what this character is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when it's your own work, it's always kind of like, for one, when it comes to Ezio, I always say, look, that performance is as much me and Ida Darvish and Peter Arpacella and Amanda Wyatt Pedriano, my director, and Patrice Desolé, who was there for AC2, like Corey May, our writer. I'm like, there were so many people that were involved. I'm forgetting people, and I apologize to, Darby McDevitt, who was with me on Revelations. I'm so sorry to
I
everybody
think
out
you're
there.
good. I was
I'm
going to
trying.
say actually how much you take the time, like throughout this whole interview, you've already always taken the time to credit people.
Well,
'Cause
gosh,
you
I'm
seem
not.
like that's a very important thing
It
that
is.
as an actor you've taken on.
It's a collaborative thing, and I think maybe thank goodness that my initial approach, Fred Tatasciore and I talk about this all the time, where it was like he went and did other things, and I did other work, and it's like, so there's an appreciation for how cush the job can be when you're doing the job. The
Yeah.
acquisition of the work is the work. The work itself can be quite enjoyable and fun if it's going well. It always is. That said, like, I didn't think I was going to be here. I didn't see how it was even possible. So the idea that I am here, I have an appreciation for it. Yeah, no, and I look at it like, hey, there was the village atmosphere. I mean, there were family friends that would come watch me do stand up in horrible environments for 7 minutes
Oh
or 3
yeah.
minutes at a time. That kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like you just go, yeah, it's there's a support network, and the reality of any film or any video game or any TV production is that you've got so many people that are involved in that process, that there's so many people that are making that happen. So I try to remember that it's like, look, Ida was my dialect coach on AC2 and about halfway through Brotherhood, before she had to move for a job opportunity. And it's like, she was instrumental in helping me shape what was our sort of, as I always call it, the Italia Spanglish accent.
Yeah.
But also speaking the lines in Italian that I'd never done. She was crucial to that. And so I can't take full credit of, oh yeah, no, I'm so good. It's like,
Right.
no, I had a support, and Patrice was always there to finesse, a finalized, a polished version of a performance. If he knew something about what was taking place that Amanda wasn't privy to, and Amanda was there to say, pull back on this, or no, push there, or Amanda worked with me on Arkham Origins, and it was like, the quintessential scene that to me is the embodiment of what that story was about, was the scene between Alfred and Batman where he's confronting him and saying, I'm worried about you, you're in over your head and all this, and Batman going, I am not in over my head. So all these things, and Amanda was crucial in guiding me into a performance that I could be proud of, and that we both were like, yep, I like that, I'm okay with this, that was good. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I look at all of that as like, it's very important. But with a character like Ezio, I always worry that I'm going to step back into it and try to do the character for somebody now, and I'm going to get the accent just a little bit wrong, or there was a lot of work on that. We worked very diligently, and when you're doing it for 4 hours at a time, your brain can hone in very quickly on like, oh, that's right, okay, so not is and this one, so not like your brain starts going into this mode of like, okay, so I'm going to make sure that I am that, not that, you know, all these things. And now if somebody goes like, do the voice, I'm kind of like, and they're like, oh my God. And I go, yeah, but it's not very good. I need Ida or Peter to kind of help me because they all, you know, and all of them are gifted and talented. And so, yeah, I try to pay homage to that as much as I can. But that's for me now. Yeah. If it's stepping back into it, I'm always like, I'm going to screw up the accent, or it's not going to sound exactly like they might remember it. And therefore they're kind of like, or they're seeing it come out of this old guy's face. And they're kind of like, So yeah, no, it's, there's always the pressure. But also along with that is like, oh my gosh, you just asked me a question about voicing a character that I'm still getting to do over 10 years later. That is a good problem to have in this industry.
Very good problem. Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's also a thing, like you said, they always sometimes try to reinvent a character. Like it just happened with Lara Croft, you know?
Yeah.
And so to be able to say, no, I still voice that character.
So far, so good, right?
Very cool.
It will happen. I mean, it's and that's the other thing, and it's already happened. I think. I mean, like, my gosh, there's so many characters. I mean, Captain America was a dream come true for me, and it's like I'm still doing Captain America for like Lego projects and things like that. But there's been many other iterations. There are other actors who play Batman and voice Batman and that kind of thing. So you just kind of go, you know, as actors, we want to do, you know, this. We want to do everything. We want to do everything.
We want to be part of cool stuff.
Yeah,
really.
We want to hear good job. I liked you in this. You are so talented. This was so cool. Or you moved me. Like, we want that in everything, and it doesn't work that way. And so, yeah, the idea that I've been able to do things that are still sticking around, it's not lost on me how very, very truly fortunate I am to be able to do that. But I also know that it's like at some point, you know, you got to move on. You got to, and what a great thing to be. And what a great thing to be a part of it. You know, it's nice to get invited to the party even just once. The fact that you get to keep coming back is pretty cool. But eventually, they need new party guests.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you still live on. You know, your fans are not gone just because that's happened. You know.
No, exactly.
This is kind of a fun question. Somebody sent this, wanted me to ask you this. So I'm assuming yes, but have you played Assassin's Creed Nexus?
Oh, no, the VR.
Oh, the VR one, yeah.
Actually, no, I take that back. I think I did pop it on and give it a shot to begin with, but I ran out of time on that, and it's like I'm so not honed in on the skill set. Even with Arkham Shadow, it was the same thing for me dealing with that I was kind of like, oh yeah, like I'm struggling with VR in terms of the control schemes and all that stuff. But no, I fired it up ever so slightly, just a little bit, but I've not played all the way through.
Well, that's okay. The question actually was in relation to your fear of ledges. Did this game help you in any sense to overcome that fear that you have?
It doesn't even matter. Like so even in playing the original Dying Light, there's a sequence where Kyle Crane has to climb this communications tower, and it's like exceptionally high. It's one of those like 400-foot tall kind of things.
Yeah.
And Techland did such a great job of like making the higher you go, suddenly the environment's changing. You start hearing more metal creaking and snapping of cables and things.
Yeah.
More wind, the sound of wind through the cables. And it all serves to give me, even though I'm sitting on my couch and I'm perfectly fine, I literally get that queasy, you know, that gut
sweaty
dropping
palms.
out. Oh yeah, all of it. And it's the same thing when you're doing parkour or climbing, you know, a ledge and doing the leap of faith in Assassin's Creed. It doesn't matter. So I guarantee you Nexus, if anything, is only going to make it even worse. I have yet to get to that point in the VR, but no. Sadly, no. I don't think there's any getting over this.
Exposure therapy is not
it doesn't work for me. I visited Tokyo in my 20s, and we went up to like the tallest building in Tokyo, and we went to like the edge of the windows, and I was like, no. I'm like, can we get out of here?
I'm good. Let's go down some floors.
Tremendous view. And that said, I love flying. I just don't like ledges.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. Heights are just not my thing.
Yeah, no.
You've talked a lot about how you feel VR is like an underappreciated medium.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I do. I'm hopeful. Like I have no idea where it's all headed. I know that like it makes sense to me. I'm sure the sort of not barrier to entry is not even so much cost related anymore, because there's so many different variations on this. In the beginning stages, it was like you had to have a PC and all this stuff, and you had to set up these cameras. Now the fact that you're strapping the thing to your head, maybe that's the barrier to entry, is that it is kind of not cumbersome, but it's a thing. So there's
Yeah.
that. And I know that they want to get to more to the point where it's like it's a pair of glasses or it's a pair of goggles or something like that. Wouldn't that be great? And yes, but I do think that the portability of it and the experience of it, and the accessibility of it is a really interesting. It's just such an interesting technology that I feel like it's just, yeah, it's criminal that it hasn't gotten bigger than it should be, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I feel like it's pretty exciting. There's a lot about it that you kind of go, oh, this is neat. Like suddenly just turning your head around 360, it just makes a digital map of the room that you're in, and suddenly you're playing this little Space Invaders game where it's like, the creatures are punching through the ceiling of your house, of
Yeah.
the room that you're in, and you see something beyond it. Like, these are really, really cool things. To say nothing of just the gratification of throwing a batarang, feeling like even though you're doing this, you're more sort of entrenched in the world. You're more immersed into it. Yeah, no, I would love to see it get more popular, but my
Hmm.
gosh, trying to find an audience in this day and age, I don't know where we're
It's
at.
tough.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's getting worse
It's
and worse.
I feel like it's had several, like VR has had several moments where it's like peaked,
Yeah,
and I'd say this is maybe like the second time around.
right.
This one, like, a lot of big companies were making VR headsets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think it just needs one more push, and I feel like it's
yeah,
there after that. Maybe
yeah,
a technological leap of some kind.
yeah.
But yeah, interesting to note
No, I
that
agree.
VR is something that's you're really appreciate, and I do as well. I think that it's about to peak again. I feel like it's on the verge.
Yeah, I wonder
Um,
where it's gonna go. I
yeah,
just I feel like
same.
lightweight, more portability, easier to pack away, and it's like
Yep.
then you've got because I know like the consoles are having a hard time. Like everybody's having a
Yeah.
hard time with all this. It's like
Hardware's hard.
hardware
That's
is
what I
hard.
always
Yeah,
say.
exactly. Yes, it's
Yeah.
aptly named. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, let's touch on Halo.
Okay.
Because I've heard, and you've talked about this in many interviews, that it's a very special franchise to you. What makes the first Halo such a special, like, video game for you?
I honestly don't even know. I mean, like one of the best single player campaigns out there. I mean, the LAN parties that my friends and I would literally create just to do multiplayer Halo.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point I remember driving up to like Santa Barbara from Southern California, from like Orange County, driving up to Santa Barbara, and my friends were going to school, and bringing our Xboxes, and we took over a friend's house, and
Oh,
everybody like brought their own little TV if they had it, and it was like, and we set up like hardwired etherneted networked our own LAN like system, like using
yeah.
some hack software program to basically play. And all of us just stayed up till like 6 a.m, like doing that for 3 days in a row kind of thing, like
Wow.
staying up all night just playing Halo and stuff. It's so, I can remember I was a bar back at the Dave and Buster's down in the city of Orange, and I'd get off work at like 2 a.m and be wired because you were just, up all night and you're lifting kegs
Hmm.
and doing all this kind of stuff. And my treat to kind of come down from work would be to go home and be excited to actually continue my campaign of Halo. It was just probably one of the first like big sort of like, wow, this is what games can be now. And performances, Half-Life was that way for me as well. I think Half-Life 2 was one of the first times I went, oh, they can actually make dramatic performances in games and have that be an asset to the gameplay kind of a thing. And Halo was just a perfect sort of like, just a damn good video game with really cool performances and just something so original and new in my world. And for me, yeah, I just, I still think of it like that, turning it on, and hearing that music and seeing the giant ring, and it was just like there was something so cool about that, and it was a very
Yeah.
fluid game. So yeah, no, it still holds a very special place.
That's awesome. Halo's iconic.
Yes.
Speaking of iconic franchises or anything like that, is there anything that a franchise that you would love to join, or maybe just an iconic character you'd love to play that you haven't yet?
I don't know that I've really done much in the Halo world. I'd
Yeah.
probably like to be a part of something like that if that's still going on. Oh my gosh, I would kill if they were to ever do anything with Portal again. I would love to do anything with
Portal
Portal. That
3.
was absolutely one of my favorite games of all
Yeah.
time. But no, it's so hard to really like. I mean, all of that's just kind of like, I don't know. I lightning has struck so many times in my career, as I've often said, that it's really hard to say, like, yeah, no, I've got this one thing that I really want to go do. If anything, I'm just excited to think maybe there's something someday that that I get to be a part of, that just becomes something that is, what, iconic.
Yeah.
I've already been able to be a part of
Yeah.
like Assassin's Creed and Dying Light
Right.
and the Sonic franchise and Batman games and
DC,
Captain
Marvel.
America.
I mean, you've done
Yes,
it all.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
Resident Evil, like you just go,
Yeah.
no. And so the idea that it's like, I mean, so many of these things, they kind of came along at a time when it was all brand spanking new. The idea of a console was brand
Right.
spanking new. And obviously I'm looking at something like Halo, and this is when Microsoft created the 360. So it's kind of like, that was a different time. And I mean, to be a part of something like that, unless there's a new, I mean, where do we go from here? Holographic, console
Yeah.
systems, right? Is that the next
AR?
thing?
Augmented reality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the next thing? And if so, if there is a technology that becomes the next console, perhaps that is VR. I mean, wouldn't it be great to think that if it was just as simple as slipping on
Yeah.
a pair of glasses, that I know they want to get there, and that and wearables are a big thing. It's like, this is where we're at. So if it became that, and I got to be a part of something that was like the big game that, like a Halo or a Mario Brothers or a Sonic the
What about
Hedgehog.
Half-Life 3 if that ever gets made?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sign me up. But the reality is, you want me to sell, bed sheets on a TV commercial, with my voice, I am fine to do that.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it's like every day behind a VO mic is a great day. And so
Perfect.
I'm just thrilled to be able to work. I mean, so much of it for me is not so much even the quality of the production or anything like that, as much as it's just, no, it's just great to work. It just feels good to be like, hey, I auditioned, somebody liked what I submitted, and maybe I was available, and so they called me, and here I am booking this job, and isn't that the goal? So
exactly. Okay, last question, and then we're gonna do this or that. So, in the same vein, actually, what's a character that you've played that hasn't come back yet? Because you've done a couple of those, but is there one you would love to bring back that you haven't yet?
Oh boy,
that's a tough one.
I really enjoyed playing Kale Vandelay for Hi-Fi Rush. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for him, but hey, we're in the world of video games, so you kind of go, hey, same thing with Ezio, like in the Animus. I have no idea. Yeah. Maybe there's a chance this guy comes back. That would be a ton of fun. But no, I think I would love to revisit Kale Vandelay, just because he was so, if you're going to be a villain, be a fun villain, be one that's just sort of pompous and bombastic. And he was so put upon by so many things, in addition to being unkind and and a bad guy. No, it'd be fun to think. And I don't know that Hi-Fi Rush is coming back. I have no idea what they've got in store for that franchise, but it would be fun to return to something like that. No, but yeah, no, it'd be fun to play Kale. More Kale would be fun.
For sure. Yeah, well, hopefully they listen to this and they'll make
fingers crossed. There you go. Let's hopefully, yeah. Actually, I will say this. If I could be a part of anything, I've been dreaming of, because it was one of the best combinations of like both flight sim mechanics in some ways, but the perfect arcadey kind of blending. But if they could do Crimson Skies again, which was an Xbox original, I believe it was only on the Xbox, or was it No, it was Xbox, not Dreamcast.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. And it was like Indiana Jones in the sky. And it was like,
wow.
It just kind of had that vibe. It was a little steampunky and a little bit like, like futuristic in some ways. But it was such a great game, and I would love to be a part of anything Crimson Skies. If that, that's a dream. That's an actual dream. There you go.
I love that. I'm glad that we got back around to that.
There you go. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we're going to do a little round of this or that. Cool. It's 2 questions. Okay. 2 things, rapid fire. You have to answer which one you would pick.
Okay.
You have to pick one.
Okay.
And you can give your reason, or you can just move on to the next question.
Okay.
Returning to an old character or someone brand new?
Brand new.
It's a bit more vague.
Brand new.
Brand new? Okay.
Yeah, I think I go brand new. It's because there's just so much creativity in the industry, and I'd love to think that I still get to be a part of somebody's concept or
fresh
idea.
Fresh vision.
Yeah.
Traditional console or VR?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go traditional console only because it's just like that one. There's a lot to be said, and I kind of look at it like both can be done at home, that kind of thing. And maybe what I don't like about where we're headed is so much of the the portability, and everybody wants it to be on this thing now. And I'm like, I don't
Right.
know about that. So no, I'm going to go. I like the idea of like sitting next to somebody and playing split screen. So
Yes.
yeah, I go traditional.
It's making a comeback.
Yeah.
All right. Fans quoting your iconic lines to you in person or your character becoming a viral meme.
Fans.
Yeah.
Fans doing that stuff in person. That's that, because that becomes way more of a human connection. And the reality of what it is that we're out there, that everybody that works on games or a production is trying to do, is to move
Yes.
people. Again, it means it
Yeah.
has an impact. It meant that it landed with somebody and they want so badly to share that with you, so they're going to do that. Whereas a viral meme or that kind of thing is again, it's the disconnect is still there. So no, I'd rather meet somebody who who quotes "no copyright law in the universe is going to stop me" or that kind of thing to my face.
That's the right answer.
Good. Okay, cool. Oh, wait, there's right and
You
wrong
passed the
answers
test.
to this?
No.
Oh.
I'm just messing.
Is this pass fail?
Yeah. This one should be easier. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Nice.
Although I'm getting way into tea as of late, but coffee.
What kind?
Coffee. Oh, I'm liking herbals and peppermints and
Peppermint's
just something
great.
to kind of help calm yourself down at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Because I've had too much
Chamomile.
coffee during the day.
Right.
So
Same.
it's an irony. Yeah.
Late night recording sessions or early mornings?
Early mornings.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, early mornings. I like getting to work, with coffee and feeling fresh. Yeah.
Good. Projects that are director led or projects that are actor led?
Director led all day long.
I love
Yeah,
it.
for me, director led all day long. I because of everything that I've as you've been pointing out, it's like, no, this is collaborative. This is absolutely, there are many people that are involved in this, and it's just crucial. I think actor led projects are too self-indulgent, and
Yeah.
you need to have the you got to bump up against things for
That's right.
this creative process to work in its best. And if we're just given absolute freedom, I don't think that results in the best possible art outcome. It can be very gratifying for the actor, but director led all day long.
I agree with that. Yeah. Creative constraints.
Yeah.
The project in the
No,
end.
it's the best.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. I've watched people really fight this, even when they go to CalArts, they have a project come out where they're able to cuss and curse and do all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then next thing you know, they get to Cartoon Network and they're like, what is this standards and practices and all this? And it's like, guess what? It's going to make you find a way to be better. If I had to do a clean comedy set, it was always like, well, how do I get the same impact, but without relying on an F-bomb as the punchline? It's like that kind of thing. It's like, it just makes you better. So, you got to have parameters, and directors are really great about keeping you in that space. And it's like, it doesn't mean that it's dictatorial, but it does mean that it's that you should have a push and pull at all times.
Yeah.
You get a far better product if it's that way.
I totally agree with that. Last question of the day.
Okay.
Is there anything at all that you can tease that you have upcoming project-wise? Anything? And if not, that's totally fine. We can skip it.
I wish I could. This is
Darn.
this is like, it's getting so scary with NDAs and that kind of thing, which it's always been. And I never want to be somebody who teases something that I should not be teasing. So
right.
I think an easier question is just Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
It's like, because no, I know I've got things that are in the works, and I'm working on things that are coming out. I will say this. How about the most recent thing that is literally released as of December 31st? I think it was the 31st, if not the 30th. Is a very, very sweet, and it's for little kids, definitely for little kids. But Jennifer Aniston has a book series that she's been releasing called Clydio. Clydio is the name of the main character of these stories. It started with a little book called Clydio Takes a Bite Out of Life. It's a very sweet little thing based upon her rescue pups that she's had in her own life. Where she a lot of the proceeds of this go to, like, I believe, animal rescue and specifically to like adoption. Don't quote me on that, but it's all available. And we did an audiobook for Clydio Takes a Bite Out of Life, and then we just had another book she had another book launch called Clydio versus Peanut Butter. And they did a very sweet little audiobook of that. It's essentially to help little kids that are learning how to read
Oh,
Kind of it's that kind of sort of an
yeah.
approach. And the audiobook is very bare bones. It's very not overstimulating, thank goodness, but I get to play the voice of Clydio and Clydio's family. It's narrated by Jennifer Aniston. It's literally all of 5 minutes as an audiobook. Very easy, a
That's
very
good.
easy listen. It's out. I think it's simple and fun, but it's cute and adorable, and it's very helpful for Jennifer's sort of
Yeah.
philanthropic elements. So it's a
Love
fun
it.
thing to be a part of, and I'm honored to be a part of that. So yeah, people can check that out. And I think
Lovely.
maybe they've got more in the works there. How about that? Is that a tease?
Okay. That is a
Yeah.
tease. That is a
Okay.
tease. Would you say some of your projects are coming out this year or a few years down the line?
I would say I know for a fact we've got some things that'll be out this year, but then there's a lot of things that are actually 2027 and even 2028 at this
Darn.
phase. I know
So
it's
far
crazy.
away.
Yeah, but it's good. It's
It's good stuff.
Yes,
Okay.
it's good
so
stuff.
it's big. Big stuff.
Maybe. I mean, like, look, I am thrilled. I can tease in my desire, my hope for things like, look, Dying Light the Beast came out. It was received really well. They are still pumping out more community challenges and engaging people to keep interacting with the game. They're still polishing. They're still doing stuff. Apex Legends is not going anywhere, and they have been so strong, and they
Love that
keep
game.
doing things. They're just the best. So I could say, like, there's more on the way, because I know that they are still working on more on those things, but I can't tease anything specific.
Got it.
As far as, like, Dying Light the Beast I would hope that we're gonna have something more from that, and that we get another big release with something like that. But again, I'm not confirming anything, and I'm certainly
Got it.
not, like, denying anything, but I'm also sitting there going, like, I'm the last to know. And,
Right.
and even if I was involved in something like that, it'd be the last thing I could say or talk
Right.
about. But look, the fact that Apex is seasonal, I know they got more seasons in the works, and so yeah, it's I guess there's that. And Sonic is we are still going strong with Sonic. Whatever we've got coming, I wouldn't be the first to tease it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I can work with that. So thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, it's like this. It's like I'm the one in control,
Right.
in charge of the temperature in here, and it's starting to feel sweaty. My goodness,
Putting the
Marvel DC,
pressure
that
on.
was so unfair. Yeah,
Well, Roger, thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming on today's show. Always love chatting with you. You have just such a great way with words. You're also just so open and honest about your experiences and everything like that. So I super appreciate it.
likewise. Thank you very much. You run a tight ship, Naomi. This is always fun to see you and to get to be a part of these things. So right back at you. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun, and I hope you'll come back for another episode in the future.
Bring
We
it.
have stuff to tease.
Bring it when I've got official things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try to get some official stuff. We'll see.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one, Roger. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for tuning into our show with Roger Craig Smith today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to tune into our other episodes with awesome guests like Jesse Cox and Sean Layden. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you can help us grow, and leave us a comment on any future guests you'd love to see. I'll see you next episode. Bye for now.